Have you ever noticed how the strongest presence in a room is often the quietest one? Have you felt the difference between reacting quickly and responding with steadiness? Do you ever sense that real confidence doesn't need to announce itself or prove anything at all? Have you observed how calm becomes more influential than force when situations grow tense? Do you recognize moments when restraint feels harder, but somehow more powerful than aggression? And have you wondered why some men bring a sense of safety and grounding wherever they go without raising their voice? Masculinity is often mistaken for intensity, dominance, or outward strength. But beneath the noise, there is another form. One that doesn't rush, doesn't flare, and doesn't need to perform. It shows up as consistency, emotional control, and the ability to remain anchored when pressure rises. This is the masculinity that stabilizes families, decisions, and even oneself, not through aggression, but through presence. There is a common confusion around masculinity. It often gets described through volume, force, or intensity, as if strength needs to announce itself to be real. But many men notice something different as they grow quieter inside. The men who feel most grounded are rarely the loudest. They are not constantly proving, defending, or reacting. They move with a certain steadiness that does not need permission. Aggression is visible, stability is felt. Aggression creates motion. Stability creates direction. This distinction matters because much of the exhaustion men feel today does not come from weakness. It comes from constant internal motion without grounding, energy spent reacting instead of holding shape. Masculinity, at its core, is less about how forcefully a man moves outward and more about how calmly he remains intact when pressure arrives. That calm is not passive, it is structured, it is contained, and it is learned slowly, often without instruction. Aggression has a short horizon. It spikes, it releases, and it fades. It feels powerful in the moment, but it does not last. Afterward, there is often emptiness, regret, or the need for another surge. Stability works differently. It does not rush to discharge energy, it holds it. A stable man is not unmoved. He feels anger, desire, ambition, and pressure like anyone else. The difference is that these forces do not immediately become behavior. They are absorbed first, given weight, allowed to settle. This settling creates clarity. When aggression leads, attention narrows. Everything becomes an obstacle or a threat. Decisions shrink to reaction. When stability leads, perception widens. A man can see more than what provoked him. He can sense consequences, timing, and proportion. This is why stability often looks quiet from the outside. There is less unnecessary movement, fewer sharp edges. Discipline grows naturally in this state, not as control, but as alignment. Actions begin to match intent without force. Energy stops leaking into distraction and friction. Desire also changes here. Instead of pulling a man in multiple directions, it becomes focused, not suppressed, refined. Aggression tries to dominate desire. Stability contains it, and containment is not repression, it is structure. A man without structure is easily provoked, easily drained. A man with structure can remain present even when things do not go his way, not because he is indifferent, but because he is anchored. This anchoring gives masculinity its quiet authority, not authority over others, authority over inner movement. The result is reliability. Others sense it, even if they cannot name it, not because the man demands respect, but because his presence does not fluctuate with every moment. Stability is not dramatic, it is consistent. And consistency is where real strength accumulates. Over time, a man begins to recognize himself not by what he asserts, but by what he can hold without distortion. This holding shapes identity. When reactions decrease, self-trust increases. Not confidence in image, but confidence in response. A quiet knowing that pressure will not dismantle him. Many men discover that their exhaustion was never about effort. It was about uncontained effort. Energy spent proving instead of building. Resisting instead of directing. Stability allows effort to stack. Days connect instead of resetting. Decisions feel cumulative rather than scattered. Self-mastery, in this sense, is not a battle against impulse. It is familiarity with it, knowing how much weight an emotion carries before it tips into action, knowing when to act and when to wait without hesitation. This familiarity brings dignity, not the kind displayed, but the kind felt internally, a sense of being intact. A stable masculine identity does not need contrast to exist. It does not require an opponent, an audience, or validation. It stands on continuity. When masculinity becomes stability, ambition loses desperation, direction replaces urgency, progress becomes quieter but deeper. There is less need to harden, more capacity to remain open without being porous. This does not make a man softer, it makes him harder to displace. The world still applies pressure. That does not change. What changes is where the pressure lands, not on the surface, but into a structure built to carry it. Aggression will always exist. It has its place, but it is not a foundation. Stability is. It is what remains when excitement fades, when anger passes, when noise recedes. Masculinity expressed as stability does not seek to dominate the moment. It seeks to endure through it. This endurance is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not rush to explain. It simply holds. And in that holding, a man finds something rare, continuity within himself, not intensity, not performance, but presence that does not fracture under strain. That presence is not built quickly. It accumulates through restraint, attention, and time. When masculinity becomes stability, strength stops being loud and starts being dependable, and that dependability speaks without sound.